Hello, and welcome back to Finding Jesus Today. And my name is Jen. If you're new, welcome to this YouTube channel. And if you like the contents, then please hit like, subscribe, share it, recommend it to your friends. And if you have been here before, welcome back, and we're glad to see you again. So today, I'm not actually going to be reading any scripture. I'm just going to tell an experience that I had over 20 years ago. And it was kind of like a God moment for me. My youngest son was just a baby, and I had not prayed in a really long time, like maybe at least 6 months, if I remember right, that I had not prayed. And I had this pull, this urge in me that I needed to pray, and I was going to bed. I was really tired and I could not get to sleep. It was just this thought racing, no, you need to get up and pray. And I couldn't shake it no matter. I mean, I was in bed for at least a couple of hours, and I thought, this couple of hours of tossing and turning, I could have just, given into that urge and prayed. And this urge, of course, is not a bad urge. It's something that's helpful. So of course, we want to watch the urges we give into. We don't want to give into an urge that can be harmful to us or to others. But this was a good urge. So I went ahead and I got up and I prayed. And it was a prayer that I've never really prayed before, and it was kind of weird. And I did not know why I was actually praying the way I did. And basically what I had prayed was for the next day, which was a weekend, it was a Saturday, for God to protect us and for Him to send His angels around us, and so nothing can harm us. And I had no reason to believe that anything would happen that day. None at all. So I prayed it, and in my mind I'm thinking, what in the world? Why am I even saying this prayer? I just had no idea of where this was coming from. I wasn't having any kind of that turmoil in my life. I didn't have anything that was pressing or anything of the sort. So it didn't gel with me or resonate with me of why this particular prayer was keeping me up at night. And I think I had prayed for about 15 minutes on this. And so then I actually got to sleep pretty quickly after that. So the next morning, got up and it was just me and the kids that day. Their father had to work that weekend, so it was just the kids and I. And I used to love eating egg rolls, and so I would always deep fry it in vegetable oil. And so I went to the kitchen and I started the oil heating up, and I put the egg roll in there, and usually, it doesn't take that long to fry. And so, but for some reason, when I walked out of the kitchen, I completely forgot that I turned on the stove, or that I had something cooking on the stove. It just left my mind that quickly. And next thing I know, I'm smelling something burning, and I was like, oh no, it's my egg roll. I just burnt my egg roll. In my mind, I was thinking, I'll just toss that, put water on that egg roll to cool it down and toss it, and then just make another one. Yeah, no big deal, right? And so I went in there, and and also when I cooked it, I put a lid on it so where it would cook faster. So what I did was that I took off the lid, and all these flames just shot up. I was like, oh no. And so what did I do? I panicked, and I took that pot of flaming oil with my egg roll in it, and I put it under on the sink. And at the time I was holding my baby. I was holding my youngest one. He was under a year old. I was holding my baby on my hip. And I put it underneath the faucet and I turned the water on high. Now, any of you could probably imagine what happened next. That is definitely not the thing to do. But I panicked. I know what I was supposed to do, you know. But when you are just reacting and you see like a danger, sometimes you don't go through the steps that you're supposed to go through to be safe. And so all of a sudden flames shoot up, of course, you know, and it went on the ceiling of the kitchen. It's like a lake of fire on the kitchen ceiling. And above the sink was a cabinet. And that cabinet had paints up there, has spray paints and up there. So, you know, very flammable stuff above. And I just yelled out to the kids, fire! And, you know, Tony, get out of the apartment. And I yelled out to a neighbor to call 911 that we have a kitchen fire. And next thing I know, you know, 5 or 6 fire trucks show up, and I think they just heard an apartment was on fire, and not that it was a kitchen fire, but of course it could have spread to an apartment fire, of course. And the firemen went in there and they said that the fire's out. They said, you did everything right. And I said, no, I did everything wrong. You know, I put flaming oil underneath water. And he said, what? You know, and they had called out an ambulance. And they said, are you hurt? And I said, no. They said, well, you're holding your baby. And I said, yes, I was holding my baby. And so they had me walk in there to show them about where I was standing. I didn't walk into the kitchen, it was kind of pointed. And evidently there was where I was standing was a circle. I mean, it was a dry spot. That's what I mean by a circle. It wasn't like a drawn circle. That had no oils or anything like that was splattered onto it, which kind of makes sense if I, you know, I was standing there. They brought the ambulance out. They went ahead and took me and my son. Well, my kids had to go with me as well. I have 4 children, so there was me and my baby and my 4 other children, which ranged 8 and below, and 5 to 8, and all to the hospital. And, you know, we didn't have cell phones, so it wasn't like I could just, you know, call their dad and say, hey, come get the kids. I had to wait till I got to the hospital and use the hospital phone to call his work phone and for him to come, go ahead and come home. Because now I had no way to get home from the hospital because we only had 1 car. Well, anyway, the doctor had asked us what had happened, and I had told him. He said, are you sure? And I said, well, yes, if I put the pan underneath the water, and you can ask the firefighters, the water was still on full blast in the pan of oil. You know, I had to be standing in the kitchen. And I said, why? He said, this doesn't make any sense because there's no, I mean, you should have been burned severely just from the back of the oil coming out. Plus the oil kind of hit so many parts of the kitchen, including behind me. And behind me was the stove. So it hits, you know, the counters, the floor, the stove behind me. And there was no oil splatters on me or my baby, my son. And they checked our hair, our eyebrows, our eyelashes, our kind of everything. And they said they can't even see a hair singed on us. And I just thought, wow, you know, that was the prayer. That the angels would protect us. God would send angels to protect us and keep us from harm. That was the prayer. That was why I was supposed to pray it. Now, if you ever lived in apartments, of course, any damages done by you, you have to pay for. And so the apartments came in, and they, the management and the maintenance came in, and they assessed the damage that was done. And from that grease fire, it was $165. That was it. You know, from the cabinets to the counters, because what happened with that was that even though the fire hit it, it didn't burn it enough to where they had to replace anything. They had to replace the light cover in the ceiling. They did have to repaint the walls in the kitchen and in the dining room. And in the dining room, I had like the Lord's Supper up there. I had my children's baptism certificates up there, and I had my oldest son's first communion certificate. We only went to one church where they gave a certificate for first communion, and so I had all of those up there, and everything, like the whole wall was black and everything, but the frames and the pictures were fine. And I framed my own, so it wasn't like Hobby Lobby or Michael's where they can make it really good and a good seal or anything like that. It's just me going to Walmart, getting a cheap frame and sticking the thing in there and hang it on the wall. So there's like no, it wasn't even a quality frame. It was like the cheapest frame. And so I thought that was, to me, it was telling as well. And so it's like when we feel that pull for of God to do something, and we feel like God is telling us to do something, and we don't understand it. Sometimes there is a reason behind it that we have not seen yet, but it's going to be later that we see when we feel this pull to do something. And it could be to help somebody. It could be like for me, it was a moment that I needed to take time out to pray. And so when we feel that pull, we should go ahead and explore it and everything and see what it's about. And because for me ignoring it did not make any difference, because I could not sleep that night until I got up and I prayed. And so we need to listen to that small, still voice that God calls out to us, and that when He beckons us to do something, that we should go and do it. Because even though it doesn't make sense and it's just kind of odd or out of the ordinary, something that, like this is really strange, it doesn't make any sense, it could make sense later. It could all come together later like it did for me. And don't worry about if there's a scientific explanation for whatever it is. God calls us and God beckons us and shows us things that we understand. Everybody else in the world doesn't have to understand that. It's to what we will understand, to our understanding. And that was to my understanding. I know a few years before that, before my youngest was a twinkle in my eye, I was really frustrated, and I just cried out to God, if you are there to show me a sign. We're not supposed to be asking for signs. And so it was sort of like nighttime, and like it wasn't completely black, but it was dark enough to where if you walk, you probably need a flashlight, but you could still see people, 30 feet in front of you, type of thing. And it was really cloudy. You couldn't see anything in the sky. You couldn't even see the moon. And I remember I called out and I was like, if you're there, just show me a sign. And all of a sudden, one part of the clouds opened up into like a perfect circle, and a bright star shined through there. And just as quickly, it closed again. Now, of course, scientific explanations for that, I get it. That was my sign that God gave to me, that yes, He is there. He is real. He is listening. And I'm not saying that anytime we ask that we're going to get such an extravagant, extraordinary sign. But when somebody does, like, don't dismiss it. Don't try to explain it away, because that was a sign that God gave to them. Like, that was a sign God gave to me. And it could be something very simple. It could be something that we might consider mundane. It could just be in the ordinary that God shows us that He is there. Like for me, the dark sky. And so when you hear that call of God, when you hear His voice, maybe just a whisper of that you hear in your ear, or you hear it in your mind. When you hear that, listen to it, discern it, see what's there. And I will see you next time. Like, subscribe, share, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.